Very good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
Headlines for you this morning. A trial of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine in children has been paused while an investigation takes place into whether the jab is linked to rare blood clots in adults.
Leading scientists urge the public to continue getting the jab, saying the benefits far outweigh the risks.
The risks of getting sick or dying of COVID for all the people currently being offered first and second doses are far and away greater than any small theoretical risk that may exist relating to these cases, which are extremely rare.
Lifting the shutters on the new shopping experience. Good morning. Big name retailers are set to extend their opening hours from Monday, but I look at why consumer retail therapy could cause a headache for smaller shops.
Good morning. Liverpool lose in the Champions League, but Manchester City find a last-minute winner to take the advantage over Borussia Dortmund.
From a palatial yoga studio to a pub in the back garden, we'll look at the runners and riders for Shed of the Year.
Good morning. It's a frosty start to the day today, but it's not going to be as windy as yesterday, so it won't feel quite as cold, although there are still some wintry showers in the forecast and later some patchy rain coming into Northern Ireland. I'll have all the details in 10 minutes.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, it's the 7th of April, and the top story this morning is that a trial of the Oxford-AstraZeneca Covid vaccine on children has been temporarily paused while the UK regulator investigates concerns that the jab may be causing rare blood clots in a tiny number of adults.
The pause is voluntary and none of the 300 children involved in the trial has suffered a clot, as our medical editor Fergus Walsh reports.
Nearly 300 children aged 6 to 17 are taking part in the AstraZeneca vaccine trial in England, which began in February. Oxford University said there'd been no blood clots in the volunteers, but out of an abundance of caution, it had stopped vaccinations pending the outcome of the safety review in adults. More than 18 million people in the UK have received the AstraZeneca vaccine. The MHRA said last week there'd been 30 rare cases of blood clots, including 7 deaths.
So it's nice to see with the air is sterile?
Yes. The Prime Minister, visiting an AstraZeneca plant in Macclesfield, once again gave his firm support for the vaccine.
The best thing people should do is look at what the MHRA say, our independent regulator. That's why we have them. That's why they're independent. And their advice to people is to keep going out there, get your jab, get your second jab.
As a precautionary measure, the MHRA updated its advice last month to say that anyone with a headache that lasted for more than 4 days after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine or bruising beyond the site of the jab should seek medical attention.
Both of the vaccines we're using are highly effective against COVID, and the risks of getting sick or dying of COVID for all the people currently being offered first and second doses are far and away greater than any small theoretical risk that may exist relating to these cases, which are extremely rare.
This could be very much compromised if people think that this isn't being taken seriously, that this isn't being examined in great detail. But I think individuals have difficulties in sort of understanding risks and perceptions and seeing this in relation to other sorts of illnesses or diseases or outcomes.
The AstraZeneca vaccine is central to the huge success of the rollout of jabs in the UK, which is way ahead of the rest of Europe. France has restricted the AstraZeneca vaccine to adults over 55, Germany to those over 60, because of concerns about blood clots in younger adults. The European Medicines Agency and the UK regulator are due to give updated recommendations in the next day or two. Maintaining public confidence in this highly effective vaccine will be vital. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
The coronavirus vaccine made by the American company Moderna will be administered in the UK for the first time today. The rollout will begin in Carmarthen in West Wales. The UK has ordered 17 million doses of the vaccine, which has been shown in trials to prevent nearly all infections. It will be used alongside the Pfizer and AstraZeneca jabs. The Welsh Government has described its arrival as another key milestone in the fight against the virus.
A comedy club has pulled out of a trial to test how venues can operate safely when lockdown ends after receiving thousands of abusive messages. The Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool says it was falsely linked to a scheme to test vaccine passports, leading to what it describes as a hate campaign on social media. A government spokesperson said they strongly condemn the online abuse and the club received and clarified that participants in the trial would only need to provide a negative COVID test, not proof of vaccination.
Researchers say that people diagnosed with COVID-19 are at greater risk of developing psychological and neurological conditions such as depression, psychosis and stroke.
The team from Oxford University examined the health records of more than 500,000 patients in the United States. Here's more from our health reporter, Rachel Schreier.
Coronavirus breaks into our cells and multiplies wherever in the body it finds itself. That's why it causes such a wide range of symptoms, from the lungs to the gut to the brain. The team at the University of Oxford looked at over 500,000 patient records in the US to see if conditions affecting the brain were more common in those who'd had COVID. They looked at 14 conditions, including anxiety, depression and psychosis, stroke, brain hemorrhage and dementia. All of these conditions were seen more often in people who'd had a COVID infection in the previous 6 months. But these conditions all have very different causes.
It could be that in some people the virus actually gets into the brain and causes some damage. It could be the way your body is reacting to the virus, produces a sort of an immune or inflammatory response that again contributes to the problems. And for other people, it may simply be a psychological effect, if you like, of the stress that having COVID and thinking what might happen to you next is the important factor.
The study couldn't prove the virus itself was definitely causing the changes, but patients recovering from COVID were more likely than similar people who'd had flu or another infection to develop a psychological or neurological condition. And the sicker coronavirus patients had been, the more likely they were to develop these complications. Rachel Schreier, BBC News.
Doctors have been told not to prescribe painkillers to people suffering from chronic pain that has no known cause. The National Institute for Health and Care Excellence says there's little to no evidence that treating people with paracetamol or opioids makes any difference. It says people should be offered a range of therapies, including exercise, acupuncture or antidepressants instead.
Britain's electricity system was the greenest it's ever been at lunchtime on Easter Monday, would you believe, according to the national grid operator. Sunny and windy weather, coupled with low demand, meant almost 80% of Britain's power came from zero carbon sources. No coals in use, and just 10% of power came from gas.
The Duke of Cambridge has paid tribute to NHS workers during the pandemic, describing the institution as probably the most admired organisation around. Prince William and Kate have taken part in a series of video conversations with medics across the UK in recent months. And in the latest, the Duke praised their wonderful efforts.
Good morning, Thelma.
Hello, how are you? Right, thanks. It's lovely to meet you.
I just want to say on behalf of everyone, what a fantastic job you've done. You've all held it together and been absolutely wonderful people. It's been a real team effort, but we're all very proud of you. The NHS has gone from already being much loved to probably the most admired organisation around. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
A seal that had a plastic ring stuck around its neck for 2.5 years has finally had it removed. The animal, named Mrs. Vicar, would you believe, was rescued from Horsey Beach near Great Yarmouth. She's been cared for by the RSPCA, who said that hopefully she will fully recover, but she will need treatment for a number of months.
The United States is facing a shortage of tomato ketchup. Heinz, which produces the most popular brand, says it's been unable to keep up with demand for sachets of the sauce. It's been driven by a surge in takeaway food during the pandemic.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, so it's just a little packet, because they obviously don't want to share tomato ketchup as well.
It's very important. Do you have tomato ketchup with chips?
Or mayonnaise.
Oh, very Belgian.
Controversial.
Apparently the Belgians start. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. I'm glad we've cleared that up.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.